Everybody, thank you for inviting me this afternoon. So when John asked me to come and said, can you talk about your business and yourself, I thought, that sounds quite good. Yeah, I think I could talk about myself for a little bit. No, it's always good to talk about nature tourism and about what we do. So we're a small nature tourism company based just outside Scarborough. Originally, in 2011, we formed, calling ourselves Yorkshire Coast Nature. As I progress through the presentation in the next half an hour, you'll see that possibly we could do with a name change, because now we're going right through Yorkshire, the UK and international, which was, we didn't really put that in our business plan for 10 years, but suddenly it's just gone mad. But I'll explain more as I go along. So we deal with local people, people nationally, and we've also got quite a good clientele of international tourists now as well that come in. Not necessarily just to visit the national parks, that's one of our main areas that we do work in spring and summer, but all along the Oyster Coast and obviously a few other places and other national parks throughout the UK. So what I want to do over the next few minutes is obviously dazzle you with some wildlife pictures. Obviously you've probably seen a lot of maps today of the national park, sorry about that, I thought I'd throw on in. But we do cover the whole area, so from the coast to the moors, to the forests, and that's one thing that really has inspired us to form our business. When I say us, there's my other business partner Richard Baines. I don't know if his name's been mentioned today at all, because he's the Turtle Dove Project Officer for the North York Moors National Park, or he was. He still is actually, he's doing it on a voluntary basis now. But I'm going to mention that a bit more in the presentation anyway, about the turtle doves and the good work that Richard does. So there's both myself and Richard are directors of Yorkshire Coast Nature, and we've now got 7 or 8 now self-employed guides that work for us as well. So botanists, ecologists, ornithologists. So we can cover anything from going on a fungi walk to an owl evening, to going looking at the seals, to birds, to whales, to dolphins, you name it, we can do it. So I'm a naturalist and ornithologist myself before I picked up a camera and became a professional wildlife photographer, and Richard's also a professional ornithologist and ecologist. So the knowledge we have ourselves as guides and of the local area, without blowing my trumpet too much, is quite outstanding. And then we've got the other guides who know a bit more about grasses and flowers and insects and things like that. So we've got a good portfolio now within the company. So what do we have on offer? Well, like I say, what is wonderful about the area that we live is we've got all these mixed and varied habitats. So we've got the coast, we've got the forests, we've got the moors, we've got the wolds, and then just opposite the North York Moors National Park, we've got the Yorkshire Dales. So we've got so much to offer, and it's wildlife rich indeed through all those different habitats. So it's not just a case of seeing the same old wildlife each time. We're moving around the different habitats, different areas through all 4 seasons, because things are moving in, things are moving out, things are breeding, you know, lots of things are happening. Without doubt, our busiest time is spring and summer. That's when we're most busy, that's when the wildlife is most active, longer days as you know. Shortly now we're going to, as you can see, our days are getting shorter. Autumn, winter still is a good time, lots of things happening, but spring and summer is our busiest time indeed, especially bringing in lots of tourists from outside the area. So I want to just start off on the Yorkshire Coast. So we've got a beautiful, fantastic, rugged coastline, and in the national park itself, literally from, you know, just from Saltburn right down to Morris, down to Whitby and Scarborough, it's just a great coastline. So I'm just going to show you a few species of certain things we get along the Yorkshire Coast that, funnily enough, attracts quite a lot of visitors. So what we do is I do a lot of the photography side of the business. So I do individual one-to-one workshops, two-to-one workshops, or small groups. We don't do big groups because obviously we're trying to approach wildlife, so you don't want 40 or 50 people tramping down to stare at a seal pup. So we do, you know, break it down into small groups. So we tend to take 4 to 6 people out, or if we're going specifically to an area where we know is more open and it won't affect the wildlife, we might take a group of 12. So for the coast workshops through the winter, for the waders, we tend to take small groups again, 4 people, or if it's photography, it's normally a 1-to-1 or 2-to-1. But sometimes I'm working 7 days a week, you know, taking 2 people out every day for 7 days. So we do cover a lot of tourists coming in. And they have different interests. So you do get people that want to watch wildlife, you do get people that just want to photograph wildlife, or you get the both as well. Or you get Mr. and Mrs. who one wants to watch and one wants to photograph, which can be quite interesting at times. So obviously this is an oyster catcher. They're very common across the Yorkshire coast at this time of year. This is a sanderling. Sanderlings are small pale waders. that, can you see this?
Yeah, no, it's okay. I've seen a lot of your photos.
Yeah, okay. These are a small pale wader that you'll see in sort of large flocks running along the shoreline. They're like the Usain Bolt of the wader world, if you've ever seen them before. They just run really fast, and as soon as the waves come in, they run back, and as the tide pulls out. So they're working on the shoreline, and they'll literally feed in any rock pools or areas or sandy beaches. This one here was on a beach that was covered in mussels. Most of the mussels were empty, but they were searching through looking for a nice tasty morsel as well. And this is a bar-tailed godwit, so this is a bigger wader. These are mostly coastal birds, but some of these birds will move up into national park to breed in the spring, summer. So some of you might recognise them, even if you're from other national parks as well. There are a lot of waders that breed in quite a few different national parks throughout the UK. And then this is a little small dunlin. So if there's any photographers in the room, then obviously I like to get down low and if I can, make eye contact with whatever I'm photographing. It doesn't matter if it's a fox, badger, tiger, tiger I've got to stay cheap, or in this case a dunlin. So I was laid in the wet water on the sand here, getting very wet and sandy, but getting some really good images, so I wasn't bothered about getting wet or cold at the time. And then this one here is a purple sandpiper. So these are all birds now that you can see by just visiting the coastline with a pair of binoculars, and even if you've got a camera that isn't got a super duper long lens and you can take some sort of image and record it, you can always go back and identify it when you get home as well. So all these birds are present at the moment. And here's a little turnstone. So turnstones are quite common as well, and they do literally what it says on the tin. They'll turn a stone over or seaweed over, feeding on any invertebrates or anything underneath there as well. And then here is a redshank. So redshanks are the most noisiest of waders. So if you do go down to watch waders, the people always says to me, how do you photograph waders? I've been really wanting to get some good shots of waders. How do you approach them? Well, you don't approach them, you let them approach you. So you need to go down quite early. I tend to go down 3 hours before high tide, and then I find an area where I can sit quietly, sit down low so I'm hiding my body profile. I might just look like a rock. And then wait 3 hours. I know it sounds but then literally the tide, you're feeding on the tide line, and then the tide will pull them closer and closer and closer. Then you have about a 5 to 10 minute window to get some images before they see you and fly off, and then you're done. It's brilliant. But the redshank is like the sergeant major of the wader world. If it sees you, it will literally take off and call, and then everything else leaves the beach. So you can imagine you're there for 2 hours and you're getting closer and closer, you can see the tide coming in, and then a redshank calls and they all go off, you think, damn! But this image, I was trying to get an image like this just to show when they take off, they literally open the beak and call, and then that's it, everything's gone by then. So some people might know about the Ravenscar seal colony. It's grey seals and common seals. At this time of year, it's just starting to get bigger numbers now because they're all coming in to give birth, basically. November, December is a good time when they start pupping, but obviously you've got to be aware that you don't want to stress them if they've got pups or whatever. But it's a place that I take people down to, but again only 1-to-1s or 2-to-1s, and we do keep our distance when we're down there. Some of the seals are quite used to people, and it's quite a rocky outcrop when you go down there. There's lots of rocks, lots of seaweed. So sometimes you're walking over the rocks and suddenly you put your foot down and it's a seal. You're like, oh no. And it just sort of roars at you. Oh, right, okay. So sometimes you get close to them and you don't really mean to, but then you just pack off. So I tend to use big long lenses when I go down there, because the reason for a long lens, some photographers don't agree on this, but is to keep your distance from your subject. So if I've got a seal at the back of the room and I've got a big 500-600mm lens, I could literally photograph its eyeball from here. I don't need to go and poke a lens in its face. You know, I can hide behind a rock and I've got that angle. So we use long lenses to give ourselves space from the subject, so we're not stressing them or anything. See, this one looks really stressed, doesn't it? Absolutely. And again, it's really looking for the pups as well at this time of year. Seals are one of the hardest creatures to photograph because they don't do anything but sleep. Unless they're in the sea, they're a different beast in the sea. But you can get all these cute little photographs here of pups and mums and things like that. So I've been looking a lot in the last 10 years of the business to work with a lot of media companies, so BBC, ITV, companies abroad, Springwatch, Countryfile, the whole lot, which has done a lot for nature tourism as well. As you can imagine, everyone watches Springwatch, Autumn Watch, Winter Watch, which encourages you to go out locally and want to look at your wildlife, even in your garden. So these guys were filming, some of you might remember this programme, they were filming a couple of years back for Channel 5, and this was down at the seal colony. So we were filming all the seals, the masses of seals coming in. It was just fantastic. We were down there for 3 days, and it was just great because it's such a wild area. You don't see a lot of human conflict with the seals down there. But it was for this programme here, which was a few years ago, Yorkshire Year in the Wild. Yeah, it was great. So I did a lot of filming in the national park for seals and also for short-eared owls and for other bits and pieces that they eventually put into the programme. And this is a piece of what I filmed, and they actually had, it was quite good. I was filming this pup while they were going off filming loads of seals, and then they said they looked at my footage when they came back. Let's see if it works. Oops, let's go back. There we go. And then they looked at the footage, and then they said, "Ooh, could we use that?" And I think, who's the professional film photographer? I'm a stills photographer. Yeah, if you want to, yeah, that's fine. So they use this in the programme itself. But here, again, we're quite a distance away, using long lenses, and you can see that they're not stressed. Mum's just playing with the cub, and it's fantastic to watch the interaction. It's just brilliant, you know, even from a distance. So it's a great place to go. Is Ravenscar seal colony. And image-wise, you can get all sorts of different imagery, playing with light. So this is obviously just a silhouette here of just the light hitting this seal early morning. The same with this one here. So you can play about. I won't bore you too much with technicalities of photography, but I just want to show you some good images. And then the other beautiful thing about Ravenscar is you've got all the rocky areas and they're hiding in the rocks, and you see the little heads and faces appearing out. But then it's obviously right next to the sea as well, so you can get them surfing on waves or canoeing in the waves, which is good. So another trick we do, and this is really, really popular indeed, is that literally we put many trips on now because they get so fully booked, and we get clients coming internationally to see whales and dolphins. So if you mention, normally out of the room, if you mention to anybody that there's whales in Yorkshire, it's like, what lad, whales in Yorkshire? And we do get mainly these, which are minke whales. And we run boat trips from Staves, which for those who know is just a little village just north of Whitby. We only take 8 people out on the boat, and we're looking for dolphins and whales, and this year's been incredible actually, funny enough. Really good sightings of minke whales, and also incredible sightings over the last 2 years of bottlenose dolphins. And we've got a good pod of about 35 or 40 now that are going up and down the Yorkshire coast, right down to sort of Flamborough and right up to Whitby and up to Staves as well. And they'll come and play around the boat, obviously. So we get harbour porpoise, which don't like boats, so they sort of appear and then they swim off. And then you get the dolphins that just come and play at the boat and play on the bow of the boat. And then obviously the minke whales coming in as well. But the biggest draw really is the moors itself, is the hilltops, the purple heather in August, and the wildlife that actually holds. So we do get requests. We get requests for different habitats to visit and also different species to see or different species to photograph. So common stuff we take for granted, obviously internationally, and I'll tell you a full story in a minute. It could be something that they've wanted to see for years, and we see it every day, but they want to see that. So I'll just flip through these quickly. These are just some of the waders that come from the coast in the winter and breed in the national park in the summer. So curlews, for me, the sound of spring is the sound of a curlew in the valley up in the North York Moors National Park. It's incredible. Or the sound of a skylark in a meadow early, that's another sound of spring. So you get the curlews on the stone walls, you get them on the side of the road. Lapwings, and these are absolutely stunning when you get, like this image, when you get the light on them. So if you get a sunny day, it shows you the purples, the greens, the colours, or peewits as they're called. You normally hear them calling and flying around. Yeah, Jeopards, yeah. And then golden plovers as well, and this is a speciality that lots of people, funny enough, want to come and see, is golden plovers up on the moors as well. And we get a good population of those nesting with chicks as well. And snipe, they get them mainly sitting on the fence posts at the side of the road very early morning. So if you're really hardcore and you want to do some wildlife photography, we go out at 4 AM. So by 4:20 you start to find snipe. By 5 o'clock they've woke up and flown off. So you've only got a limit of getting them out, so they're just waking up, getting out of bed. And then finally on this one is a dotterel. So dotterel are another bird that a lot of people want to see. We don't get them breeding in the national park, but we do get them on passage. So Danby Beacon can be a good place, which is one of the highest points, as you know, in the national park. So it's basically like a motorway service station for dotterel. So in the first 2 weeks in May, nearly like clockwork, dotterel start to drop in. It could be, this year we had 2, the year before we had 13, the year before we had 17, so it just varies on numbers. And they hang around for a few days, they're constantly feeding and refuelling because they've flown up from Northern Africa, and then they move up into the Cairngorms National Park to breed, or even leave our country and go up into the high Arctic tundra to breed. So again, it's something that a lot of visitors want to see. All the pictures I've shown you in the last sort of 6 slides are all shot from my vehicle, from my car. Because obviously if you get out onto the moors, it's just so open, you scare things away. So it's basically a mobile hide. And Richard, my business partner, has got one of these people carriers as well. So if you do see a people carrier with like 6 lenses sticking out the side, you know it's us.
Taliban.
Yeah, the Taliban. Yeah. And then another speciality bird on the moors is the ring Ozil, or mountain thrush. And again, they're specific to uplands and highlands. So we do get a good population of these nesting in the North York Moors National Park. And then some of the little birds, things like stone chats. This is a male stone chat. They're a resident all year round. And then its cousin, a wing chat. They again come from Northern Africa, and you get those in May, June, and July, as well as wheatears as well, northern wheatears. So lots of wheatears, beautiful birds, wheatears. You get them on the stone walls, on the fence posts. They really are quite a common bird. And then even at this time of year now, we're starting to get a few short-eared owls visiting the coast and moving in. There is, I think, a small population of breeding short-eared owls in the North York Moors National Park, but we get a lot of birds in the winter. Numbers start to rise in the winter. And these images, these were part of the stills I took for that Channel 5 programme, because we were filming the short-eared owls up on Liverton Moor, up near Scaling Dam, for 2 days as well. And luckily we had some nice weather. And then finally, I can't not show the grouse, can I? Obviously the famous grouse that most people come to see in the North York Moors National Park. This is a female, and then this is a male with the lovely red wattles. And it's unbelievable how many people, especially again international visitors, will want to see a grouse. They will just literally, are just tempted to see grouse. So they are beautiful birds when you look at the feather detail and how close up. When you're close up to them, they do give you a lot of detail indeed. And if they come out from the heather, they have these white socks. You can imagine like a little Nike swish on there. They've got like little long white football socks. And you don't see that, because normally you see the grouse like that, don't you? Looking at the heather, but they've got these nice little white socks indeed. And they can lay a clutch up to sort of between 9 and 11 eggs, so sometimes you get the grouse, obviously, with all the little chicks following them around as well. So we go into the forests and woodlands, we go into all these different habitats, we're photographing anything from insects to flowers, so we cover a great variation of different habitats, as well as just watching wildlife really, and recording wildlife as well. So everything we do, we record, and we will pass on if anybody needs that information of what we see. And then there's reptiles and amphibians. I'm sure some of you are aware of what there are in the North York Moors National Park. The adders, again, are another draw, because they're only our poisonous or venomous snake we have excuse me, in the UK. And again, these are just absolutely stunning creatures when you get up close to them. They won't attack you or bite you unless you stand on them or kick them or do anything like that. You know, they will just literally glide right past you. So you don't want to see how I took this, because I was basically nearly kissing the adder at the time. So I could see its tongue coming towards my upper lip. I was like, ooh, I better not move. And I was using a macro lens to get really close into here to see the detail. But they are absolutely, and that lovely red eye on there as well. And then a few amphibians as well. We've got lots of good ponds, we've got lots of water, lots of rivers in the national park as well. So frogs obviously are fairly common to see and fairly easy to photograph if you photograph them at the right time of year when the ponds are full of action and frog spawn, as well as toads. Toads are one of my favourites, amphibians, and this one is quite a cool shot. So this is a female with one male on the back. So basically when the females start to come out of hibernation and start to walk towards the pond, and that could be like a 10-mile walk, you know, you'll see them walking miles away from water, and then the males suddenly start to jump on the back of the female because they want to be the first one to mate with her, and then sometimes you see a female walking along like 10 males on the back. She's lucky she's only got one at the moment, but that's basically what it is. He's hanging on for life as she slowly walks along to the pond. And I think, has anybody mentioned about the turtle doves today? Briefly, yeah. So Richard obviously isn't here today, but he's the Turtle Dove Project Officer for the North Yorkshire National Park, trying to increase and work with farmers to increase habitat that attracts the turtle doves to come and breed, and also runs a big volunteer project to monitor what sightings and nest sites that the turtle doves are in the national park. So we've got a really good healthy population at the moment in national park. Like with any birds that migrate from different countries, sometimes we're okay, but it's the migratory routes or at the other end where they're suffering. So they could be getting shot in Cyprus and Malta, before they reach the UK. So sometimes numbers could drop in the UK, but that's because they've already been wiped out on their migratory routes. So we just keep monitoring what they do. And then there's one client of ours a few years back that we talked to and about when we just started the Turtle Dove project, and he said, "Turtle doves, lad, I've got 14 that come in my garden every day." So sometimes you got to think, is it collared doves? Is it wood pigeons? But you don't want to be, you don't. So I said, "Can I come and have a look?" He said, "Yeah, you can." So anyway, I went and had a look, and bloody hell, he had 14 turtle doves in his garden. In fact, I couldn't get them all in the frame. There was that many. And there was this one really aggressive male that kept on pushing them all around the garden. And basically it was the sort of type of seed he was using. It was a different seed to anywhere else, and obviously we got onto that and found out what type of seed it was. I can't remember what it's called now. And then obviously you start to use that in several different areas to entice them in. This one's a stock dove up here. A stock dove is really small. It's smaller than a wood pigeon, so you can see how tiny turtle doves are. They really are a small, dainty little dove. So this is what we offer within our services. So we do the wildlife photography, we do wildlife watching and bird watching. We do bespoke trips for individuals and for groups. We do the boat trips, and then we just started internationally now, but obviously most of those are on hold because of COVID at the moment. This is our website, yorkshirecoastnature.co.uk. So we do work with quite a lot of partners as well over the years that we've been together now. So just for example, I've shot straight from a Birds of Prey workshop at the Birds of Prey Centre at Helmsley, which is within the North Yorkshire Moors National Park. So I've been working with them and then shot straight across here to do some photography. We work with Real Staves, which is who we use for our whales and dolphin boat trips. And then we work with lots of local accommodation providers as well. So all the people that we're bringing in will stay locally within the area. We do try and use it'll say small local B&Bs and things like that, rather than I hope there's nobody from Premier in here today, but rather than the usual suspects. So we try and do that if we can. And we're working with quite a few. On our website we've got a big long list now of different accommodation providers that we do use and work with. So you might wonder how we get all our clients and visitors. It's mainly through social media. Our website obviously is literally our online shop, if you will. But it's mainly through social media, usual suspect, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter.
I remember when Richard said to me, "Is it worth doing social media?"
Yeah, I wish I'd listened to that. So yeah, and then obviously through the photography we do as well. Like Susan mentioned, if you show some images and it's a good image, it'll just start. People will start sharing it, retweeting it on Twitter or whatever, and it suddenly grows and grows and grows. So social media obviously is a big thing for us as well. These are our social media handles here, so if you've got a pen and paper, if you want to write any of these down, these are my personal ones as well, because obviously I promote myself through my own wildlife photography as well as through Yorkshire Coast Nature here at the bottom as well. And then finally, funny enough, it is our 10th year anniversary. So this year, so we've been going 10 years, and I think hopefully it's still onwards and upwards, even though everybody had a bit of a tough year last year with COVID, and we certainly did. But this year was totally mental. That's the way I could describe it, really. So you're going from doing nothing to doing something like nearly 7 days a week for 12 months without a rest, more or less. Just because everyone's staying in the UK, which is great, and doing UK vacations. And of course, wanting to be out in the green spaces and in the outdoors, especially with lockdown 1, when we were all told to do our exercise walk for an hour. So everyone was going out and going into the woods or going to the park, and it's like, wow, this is a swan. Oh, there's a duck. It's fantastic. So yeah, so we got a lot. Even though it was a bad year last year, I think it really wouldn't say helped us, but it's just boosted our business as well. So thank you very much. Thank you for your patience. Thank you.